I want to thank you, Madam President. I want to thank, first I want to thank all my colleagues for their participation these last several days. I would like to thank Majority Leader Senator Stewart Cousins for her work and communication with me during this process. I would like to thank Senator Gianaris for his work on the floor. And of course, I want to thank my conference for your patience during this process, for your debate today on the floor and yesterday. I'd like to thank our finance ranker, Senator O'Mara, who not only sat through, like Senator Krueger, a month of budget committee meetings, but then all our finance committee meetings, but then also led our floor debate these last 2 days. So I would like to thank him. We'd like to also thank our floor leader and deputy leader, Senator Lanza, for his work dealing with me, dealing with Senator Gianaris. No one should have to deal with both, and he does. So I very much appreciate his patience in that process. I have to thank the staff, our staff, the majority staff. You know, we stand up here and debate and no doubt put a lot of work in and a lot of effort and a lot of thought, but there are a lot of people whose names New Yorkers will never know who spend a lot of time going through these bills, briefing individual senators, briefing the conferences, negotiating the bills to begin with. And it can be sometimes thankless or maybe seem thankless. So this is one of those rare moments when I think we can publicly thank the staff, Council and Finance Office, certainly for the minority conference, as well as our counterparts on the majority. They say good things come to those who wait. Certainly from my vantage point, New Yorkers should have to wait a little longer then, because I do not see this budget as a good thing. Just by way of getting it out of the way, yes, there's always good things in a budget. When you spend $229 billion, there's going to be a few good things in there. And there are some good things in this budget. But there are many things in this budget that do not solve the issue that is facing New York State, but exacerbate the problems facing New Yorkers. This budget does not help with inflation. In fact, it will contribute to it. It will make inflation and the causes of inflation worse. We talk and we hear a lot about people leaving New York State. Does anyone think, truly, that this budget is going to solve that issue? We heard the governor and others talk about the need for more affordable housing, that we needed to build more housing in New York State. That the dream, and that's important because the dream of home ownership is something that is really tied to the idea of the American dream, to own your own home. And yet, putting the lack of a housing plan or what have you aside, we have a ban on natural gas and fossil fuel hookups to include gas stoves, lest anyone say or continue to try to say that that is not part of the ban. It is. And it's in new construction, so new homes, which means the cost of building new homes will be more expensive. If you don't believe me, ask a home builder. Now, I doubt anyone has done that because we know we pass a lot of things in this chamber without talking to the people who actually know about the thing that we're doing. And I won't bore everybody because of the hour with all of the litany of legislation that we've done that on, but certainly when it comes to new home construction, the ban on fossil fuel natural gas hookups for commercial and residential will increase the cost to build here in New York. And therein lies the reason why we don't have more affordable housing, because it's expensive to build in New York. It's already expensive. We are making it more expensive. And that's why people who do these things, who do it to make money, they're going to do them in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Connecticut. Not even raging red states. Those are blue states. Those are liberal states. And it's even more affordable there. So we're not helping people achieve the idea of homeownership when we do things like banning fossil fuel and natural gas hookups. Forget the fact that banning a form of energy has to be, I think, one of the worst ideas when you think about, from an emergency management standpoint. In the city of Buffalo, Western New York, we lost almost 50 people as a result of a blizzard. Most of those people lost electric. They lost power, the ever-reliable electric. And we're going to go all electric for all of our buildings going forward. Unless anyone at home thinks, well, you know, I live in an old house and I have a gas stove, and so I'm going to be okay. The people like our companies like National Fuel, who employ a lot of people in Western New York and across New York State, as well as other utilities that provide natural gas, they are going to make business decisions as a result of what we're doing, because they will not be able to grow their customer base. So they're going to make decisions about infrastructure that's going to have an impact even on people that this law does not directly impact today. And I have no doubt that some of my colleagues across the aisle will be back at this to save the planet, of course, as early maybe as tomorrow. So that's one policy. We can talk about the intercept of Medicaid funding, the EFMAP, which I'm sure most New Yorkers have never heard of before, right? These are government terms. We all, maybe some of us don't even know what those were before today. But here's what it means for everyone in this chamber, everybody. You are, those who voted for this budget, you can talk about $100,000 for a sewer line here, or for this school, or for this not-for-profit. And that's good. It's good. Those are good things. But it doesn't whitewash the fact that you are voting to raise property taxes on your constituents. You have voted, the majority has voted to raise property taxes on their constituents, who already pay some of the highest property taxes in the country. Certainly, if you live on Long Island, you do. In the Hudson Valley, you do. And per capita in Western New York, you certainly do. So you can't get around it. It's true. It's not my opinion. It's not from a certain perspective. It is fact. On top of all the mandates, at a time when we're spending $229 billion, Madam President, $229 billion is a lot of money. I've never seen it, $229 billion, but it's a lot of money. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. And I've said this over time and time again. Just the increase over the last 5 years is larger than budgets in 35 states. Just the increase we've gone up in the last 5 years, let alone the total amount. And still, with $229 billion, we had to find a way to take money that counties had already budgeted and were counting on. It wasn't enough. So we're putting more pressure on people's attempts to buy new homes, build new homes, on their energy bills, on reliability. We're increasing their taxes. There's no two ways about that. Of course, we're increasing spending, because that's what we do better than anywhere in the world. As I said before, if spending money could make our state more affordable, we'd be the most affordable state. And yet we're not. Nobody would say different here. I've heard my colleagues across the aisle say we are not an affordable state. And they're right. But it never seems to dawn on us that maybe it's the policies coming out of budgets like these that make our state less affordable, that cause people to seek opportunity, to seek freedom, personal freedom and economic freedom in other states. That's why we're losing people. It's the climate, all right. It's the economic climate here in New York. It's the affordability climate. This budget does not make things more affordable. I know there's a minimum wage increase in this budget. And I know how minimum wage polls, because I know most people think, you know what, putting money in the pockets of working people, that's something I can get behind. And that's something we all can get behind. But you know what happens when we do it? Here's what really happens. The dirty secret that no one ever talks about. We raise the minimum wage for low-skilled workers. And you know what happens? First of all, the cost of basic goods and services goes up. And so whatever they got of the increase is gobbled up when they go to the gas pump, when they go to the grocery store, when they go to the daycare center. It's gone. They don't see it. But you know what else happens? Companies like McDonald's, where they have a lot of low-skilled jobs, they eliminate those jobs. And they go to fully automatic, like they're doing in Colorado, and like they no doubt will do here. And so what ends up happening is you have less low-skilled jobs. You have less minimum wage jobs because companies make a decision that we're going to have less people. So maybe somebody ends up benefiting. Maybe somebody will see $21 or $17. Most companies today in New York aren't even paying minimum wage because the economy mandates or dictates that they pay more. But very often these laws, these things we do here, hurt the very people we purport that we are helping. So I can't stand, or nor will I, and be told that I don't care about working people. My parents were working people. My mom cleaned houses to put me and my sister through high school and college. The first time I was in a country club was when I was running for state senate. But I know the dirty secret, which is many times these platitudes that we put out there don't help the very people that we tell everybody it's helping. And sometimes the people who we're supposed to be helping, they're too busy working 2 and 3 jobs to really do the work to find out that this isn't helping them, that these things are the reason why they're having a harder time finding employment, why companies are going fully automated, not the least of which is what it will do to our farmers, who we continue to hammer. Yeah, we put some money in to Cornell so we can continue to do research, and that's important. So we can continue to produce apples so we can have more cider and more wineries. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for New Yorkers. It's certainly a good thing for someone like myself who represents a rural district and many of my members. But where it's not good is the farms who will not be able to continue to be in business because they can't continue to pay the cost. They're barely at the margins today, if they're even breaking even. Most of them are losing money. Most of them have the banks breathing down their necks because they already owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans. And now we're going to hit them again. Minimum wage increase 2017, Farm Fair Labor Act 2019, another minimum wage increase 2023. Let's see how much they can take before they're done. Let's see how much they can handle before agriculture isn't the #1 economic driver in New York State anymore. And food has to cost more than it does because we got to bring it in from other states or other countries with lower food quality standards than we have here in New York. One of those examples, again, where policy doesn't add up to the rhetoric. And I'll close. We know this budget was late because of bail, largely, criminal justice. The governor was pushing a bail change, a very modest bail change by all accounts. Now, I believe it was being pushed, not for public safety, but because of politics. And yet, that modest change was too much for my colleagues in both the majority here and in the majority in the Assembly. They were proud of the cashless bail change they passed in 2019. Many of them still are proud. They feel that there is no correlation between that and increases in crime. And I believe there is. But we can sit there and fight about that all day long. Here's what I would argue. What are we doing to stop the crime problem in New York? What policies are coming forward in this budget that stop it? What I will tell you is this. The bail change, by my colleagues' own, their own characterization, is that it's not a change at all. There's no change. There's no change to the crimes that were bail eligible or not bail eligible. It's a clarification. Apparently, the judges we have in New York aren't smart enough to understand the law. That's what I heard over and over again. They don't understand the language. These are people who went to law school, people who've been judges for a long time, people like the folks we just put on the high court, I guess, that don't quite understand what least restrictive meant. But now it's gone, replaced by new language to be a little more clear. And I think we're going to see the same exact thing. And so the question I would have, unfortunately for the governor, is we held up a budget for over a month, and no doubt we had to trade for some really bad policies for New Yorkers that are going to increase their energy bills, their taxes, going to make housing more expensive, going to make farming more expensive, going to hurt working people, and all to get a bail change that, by all accounts, from the folks who negotiated the change, who drew up the initial policy, will tell you is not really a change. And so I can't find enough good reasons to vote certainly for this budget. This budget does not help New York. It continues us on the path we're on. It's not even managing the decay, it's exacerbating it. As my good friend Senator Lanza said, as we were waiting for the budget, Madam President, we sort of felt in our conference like we were waiting for the asteroid to hit. And it's landed, unfortunately, and it's landed for New Yorkers. Because, you know, I've heard my colleagues say this, and I'll close with this. There was a debate a couple weeks ago, and I heard some of my colleagues say, you know, we know it's tough being in the minority. And, of course, some of them actually do know it's tough being in the minority. Some of the folks that made the comment actually don't know because they've never been in the minority. But it is tough being in the minority. That's no news flash. But that really misses the point, Madam President, because this budget isn't tough because we're in the minority. This budget's tough if you're a farmer. This budget's tough if you own a small business. This budget is tough if you were looking to build a home here in New York. This budget is tough if you care about your energy costs. This budget is tough if you're a working person in New York. That's who's tough to be in New York. And those folks aren't in the minority. I think they're in the majority. I think most New Yorkers feel exactly as I just outlined. Unfortunately, this budget doesn't do anything to address those concerns. So, Madam President, while I appreciate the work that goes into this, because bad budget, good budget, the same amount of work has to go into it to get us here. And I have no doubt that my colleagues on the other side and the staff put a lot of work in to get us to this point. But make no mistake, this budget is not good for the people of New York. I'm not even going to limit to the people I represent. It's not good for anybody in the state of New York. It does not move the state forward. It does not put us on a path to success. And I think we're going to look back years from now and rue the day that this budget was passed and signed into law. So with that, Madam President, I thank you for your indulgence. I will be voting no.